Good morning and welcome to WIN. My name is Renee Jeffries. I'm a Vice President of Field Operations with American Income and National Income Life. Here with me today, we have Elizabeth Ayala, who is my co-host, Quality Director with Home Office, as well as our very special guest speaker, Ashley Mysza. So before we jump into things, I just want to go over a couple house cleaning items. From what I understand, I believe the chat is currently disabled. I promise you, as soon as I hand this over to Ashley, I'm going to enable that. So we do encourage you guys to participate throughout this webinar. We wish that we could do it in a meeting setting where we can see all of your beautiful faces, but unfortunately we can't. So our way to communicate with you is through the chat feature. We're going to make sure that we leave 15 minutes or so at the end of today's webinar to be able to do a Q&A with Ashley. So if you have any questions for her as she's speaking or even after she's speaking, we ask you to please separate that. Do not put them in the chat because there's just too much stuff going through the chat for us to filter through and find all the questions. So please put it in the Q&A section that you should be able to find on the webinar. So let's go ahead and jump into things. Ashley Mysza is a top personal producer with the Vena Agency. We're just getting to know each other, but I absolutely love her. Her energy is amazing. I also found out that she's from Cleveland, Ohio, which is my hometown. I just assumed that she was from Chicago because she was from the Vena Agency. Starting in really like the middle of the pandemic, I think it was May of 2020, Ashley. Yeah, started May of 2020, and she'll probably tell you your story, but start a little bit in the beginning. And in her first full year with this company in 2021, she was actually on stage at convention as the #5 personal producer as a rookie, which is absolutely phenomenal, with over $346,000 of net ALP. Incredible year. And it's interesting talking to her these last few days. She's telling me that she feels like she could have learned more and done better last month with writing about $70,000 in production. Her best month ever, I believe, is over $82,000. So she's absolutely phenomenal. Let's go ahead and give her a big round welcome once I can get the chat going. And Ashley, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you.
All right. Hey, guys. So I'm Ashley, and what I'm going to do with you guys today is just share a little bit about, my background, where I've come from, how I've developed myself to get to where I'm at today. Because, here's the thing, guys, there's no secret to this business. It's not like a special presentation or, magic sales ability that has gotten me to where I'm at today. 90% of this deal is mental. And I promise you, it's not a special gift or talent or ability. It's not a special resource. I'm speaking from my heart today. And, I hope what I can do for you guys today is just like give you guys, applicable takeaways that can help catapult your career for the end of the year and going into 2023. So, a little bit about me, guys. So, when I was 7, my dad was in a work-related accident that left him brain injured. So growing up, my mom was traveling a lot, trying to, get him proper care out of state. So I was tossed from like family member to family member. I didn't really have a whole lot of guidance, growing up, and my mom herself didn't have a whole lot of guidance. So, in turn, her being only 32 years old when that incident had occurred, being left a single parent, she was very emotionally unstable. So, as a child, it ended up resulting in just a lot of trauma. I had very bad paranoia, I had very poor social skills growing up. And essentially from the time I was 7 all the way throughout high school, I didn't really talk much or know how to, because I just had like such bad like anxiety and such bad like mental health problems. So when I was in high school, I ended up getting that treated. I ended up almost feeling like I was a lab rat. But being on medication, it cleared my anxiety and it allowed me to live like a normal life. I had a lot of friends, but I still had this like perception of myself, that I was, messed up. There was something wrong with me because I was labeled as having like an anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, PTSD, ADHD. I was labeled as having all this stuff, and those conditions almost became my identity for a period of time. And they limited like the belief that I had in myself. So, what did I do at a young age throughout high school, college? What I did was I turned to all of the wrong things for fulfillment and happiness. I mean, you name it, partying and alcohol, marijuana, all of the wrong things. And, after I graduated high school, I was just lost. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Now, I knew I didn't want a job. I was working at Arby's throughout high school. I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. So eventually what I found was the promotional marketing field, which was great as a young adult. It was a lot of fun. I developed a large network. I had a lot of friends, but I knew like something like that, although it was fun in the short term and it created income in the short term, it wasn't a long-term career. And at the time, guys, I didn't live like the healthiest lifestyle. Eventually, I positioned myself where I was, working long hours, not really being the healthiest, and I broke a little bit. And, I was at a point where, I didn't even really want to like keep going anymore or keep trying anymore. And, that's when I started growing like my faith. I got plugged into like a really good church, and God healed my life, and I got intentional about my personal growth, and I got intentional about my success. So during that time frame, that's when, I prayed for vision, I prayed for guidance, I prayed for purpose. I prayed, I'm like, God, what am I supposed to do with my life? Like, where am I supposed to be right now? What am I supposed to do? Because I was so lost. And, at the time I started getting these convictions, I feel like I'm supposed to be in a leadership role. I've always been very, very business oriented. I know I want to start a business. I knew that's what I was going to do one day. I was always very interested in the concept of passive income, residual income. I knew I was going to do something along those fields, but I didn't really have clarity as to what it was. So I connected those dots at the time with life insurance. So the crazy thing is before I even met my personal recruiter, like I knew that I was supposed to get into life insurance. I knew nothing about life insurance. I knew nothing about any company within life insurance, but I knew that's what I was supposed to do. So I actually met one of my RGA right now, Giovanni Vacca. I met one of his friends from college, Nexus. And at the time, he just talked, so highly of obviously Gio and, everything he'd done at Arias Agency, how he was top producer, how much he had transformed. He shared some of Simon Arias's podcasts with me. And essentially what he did was he sold the vision of becoming an SGA with me. Before I even really knew what an SGA was, he didn't really sell the dream of becoming an agent or in leadership, but, he sold the vision of becoming a big business owner. And as soon as I started listening to like, Simon's podcast, I was sold. And I thought to myself, I was just like, I literally knew at the time that I was going to do whatever this man did, and then I got hired. Right after I got hired, guys, Tommy Vena, he got promoted to an SGA. And I didn't even really know what that meant at the time at all. All I knew is, I got hired for this new position. They were asking me to move to this new state. And, I was scared, but I felt this conviction in my spirit that I was supposed to go. And logically, like I had no idea why. Logically, I was terrified at the time. I was like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, then I know like sometimes when something doesn't logically make sense, but, it does in your heart and you pray about it and you feel this prompting, sometimes, God's calling you to go somewhere. So I ended up going. And, right after I made the decision to move to Chicago, that's when the pandemic hit. So it delayed my start a little bit. So I actually started training in April of 2020. My essay was newly promoted at the time. I mean, imagine, being in the deal a few months, moving to a new city and then getting a trainee and having to learn to transition from the field to virtual, and bringing somebody along with you. So it was messy for him. It was like 2-3 weeks of, him not really getting any activity or really knowing what to do and trying to pull me around with him. And then I got tossed off to my GA and we ended up making it through training at the time. But, we were a brand new agency. So we just, at the end of the day, like brand new agencies just don't have the best systems in place. And we do now. But right when we started during the pandemic, we were just trying to figure out virtual. So we didn't have the best systems in place. So, I was in a position where, I got released without even really making a sale 100% on my own. The last day of my training, we kind of like made a sale. Like my GA opened it up and he closed it out for me, and we're like, we're good to go. And I'm like, I'm not good to go. But, they had to move on to the next wave of trainees. So they couldn't keep me in training forever. So, what they did was, they put me in the release call with my RGA. And at the time I had absolutely no confidence in myself whatsoever. It was May of 2020 when I got released. And I remember sitting down with Casey at the time and, him being like, okay, we got to set a goal for your first week. And I'm like, I can't write anything. I can't set a goal. And I can't do this. Like, I remember just being like terrified. And he's like, okay, well, let's start small. Let's start with 2,000 a week. And I was like, I can't do that. And I looked at him like he was absolutely crazy. But, the thing is, I was right. And I was right because like, I didn't believe that I could, write the business. So what happened was, because I had no belief, and because sales is a transfer of belief, my first month out on my own, I actually went 0 for 30 presentations, right? And, the reason I went 0 for 30 presentations was because I lacked control. I wasn't confident. Again, sales is a transfer of belief. So if you have no belief in your presentation, nobody's going to buy. They're going to be skeptical. So that's what happened. So, I failed and failed and failed and failed. My second month in business, I made 1 sale that month. I wrote 1,300 ALP. My third month in business, I was at a point where I was making over 1,000 calls a week without callers. I wasn't getting any traction whatsoever. No one was picking up. I couldn't get in presentations. I was getting stressed out. I had like no money in my bank account whatsoever. I could barely afford to buy food. And at the time, I remember I was running like will kits and child safes. So, we were allowed to door knock will kits and child safes, right? So, what I did was I figured, if these people aren't going to answer the phone, then I'm going to show up at their house. So I taught myself how to door knock. You know what I mean? And I was terrified. I had no idea how to do that. But I'm just like, you know what? Like, they're probably going to be a lot nicer in person than over the phone. So that month, my third month in business, I ended up writing, I think, 3,000 ALP. And that was off of no sale will kit referrals. And then what happened is my fourth month in business, I wrote 18,000 and I was top producer of the agency. That's really not a lot for American Income, but for a new startup agency, like $18,000 is a pretty good number. Then, in 2020, I finished the year out in the field. And in 2021, I transitioned back into virtual, because it's more effective and efficient. In that year, 2021, that's when I finished number 5 rookie producer of the year. And at the time, everybody asked me, and everybody still does. And they're just like, Ashley, what changed? And nothing really changed. It didn't. It wasn't like there was some like magic transformation that occurred, or, I magically got like different resources, or, something just happened and I was an overnight success. I didn't just drastically change my presentation, but what happened was I committed to a process, right? I had a vision, so I refused to give up. And what happened is the compound effect. I got 1% better every single day. In my hard work compounded. And what happened is, to the outside eye, it looked like something changed. It looked like I was an overnight success, but nothing did. So, what I'm going to share with you guys today are just 6 mindset tips that got me through that dry season. Right? 6 mindset tips that made me into the person that I am today, that have gotten me through adversity. And if you guys want to write this down, hopefully this will take you to the next level throughout the rest of the year in 2023. So, the first mindset tip is you have to shift your mindset from victim to victor. Now, you have to have the perspective of my hardships are going to mold me rather than stop me. So I read this book. It's called Crushing by T.D. Jakes. And it completely transformed my perspective on this concept. Because here's what the book teaches. Here's the whole, core and principles behind this book. God doesn't cause hard things to happen, but he allows them to happen. It's a fallen world. And God can use all things for good. So if you allow him to use those hard things, he will mold you into a person that can sustain great purpose. So you've got to shift your mentality from woe is me. You've got to shift your mentality from, feeling sorry for yourself. You have to stop waiting for somebody to save you, because nobody's going to save you. And you have to leverage that adversity and let that adversity propel you into greater results. Self-accountability and self-initiative is key. Stop waiting for somebody to do it for you. We're all busy in this business. Your upline's not going to do it for you. Your SJ is not going to save you. Everybody's replaceable. You have to make the decision that you want this for yourself and figure out a way to make it happen. So, with my start, I mean, you guys heard, it was rough. It was a few months of, not getting any results. I'm a planner, I like having a savings. I didn't have a savings, me starting this deal was very spontaneous, so I can look at that situation and I can, cry about it, and I can say that was so hard. I wish that, I started today and, we had all the systems and the trainings in place that we do right now. I would have, been able to write 50,000 coming out of the gates. So I can say that, or I can look at the situation and I can say, I would not be on this call right now if I didn't go through that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be helping, somebody else that, had half of a rough start as me if I didn't go through that. That's what developed the grit in me. That's what developed the work ethic in me that, allowed me to finish number 5 in the company in 2021. So you've got to shift your mindset from I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z to X, Y, and Z. It has made me into the person that I am today and is equipping me for even a greater purpose. So here's an application point behind this. You have to shift the disposition of your heart towards gratitude. Whenever I catch myself getting negative, I turn on Christian worship music. Why do I do that? Because the lyrics are very, very positive. They force me to focus on what I'm thankful for. I get negative all the time. I grew up in a very negative family, so that's my default. But you have to be intentional about it. Not a negative person. That's my default. That's not who I am. And I can choose to be positive. And then, another thing you can do is just start the day by focusing on gratitude. I've been doing cardio in the morning. I've been trying to get on a healthy, weight loss track. And, that's what I'll do is I'll listen to worship music and I'll try to be intentional about what I'm thankful for and everything that I have rather than everything that I don't have. And that helps you start your day right. So, whenever obstacles arise, rather than give up, stop and ask yourself, how can I? What is a way around this? Realize, guys, as well, that, whatever is limiting you, whatever is holding you back, if you feel like you're not enough, God's power is made perfect in our weakness, right? So if you're not enough, if you're failing, then your failure is leading to his submission. And when you stop believing that you're the best and you can do everything in your own power, what happens is that leads you into trusting a power that's greater than you. Right? That's what leads you into, just natural results. So number 2 is just choosing your own destiny, right? That's the second mindset shift, right? So realize, guys, that nobody has authority over your life to determine what you can accomplish other than you, right? So I read this book. It's called Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. And, if you guys read it, it'll completely transform the way that you think. And sometimes, what happens is the people that are closest to us in life, what they do is, they condition us to think small, and they don't always do that to hurt us, but sometimes they do that as a way of protecting us. They don't want us to get hurt. So what they do is they subconsciously tell us that we can't do things because they don't want to see us, take a risk and fall on our face, right? So don't let the small-minded people around you determine your success. Put your faith in something that's bigger than the people that are around you. For just an example, Growing up, I had, a lot of anxiety. My mom cared about me. So, one thing that was pretty common that she would tell people as I was growing up is, Ashley can't do this. She's got an anxiety disorder. And she was trying to protect me, but that wasn't protecting me. What that was doing was that was handicapping me. Because imagine guys, if I told Renee today, I'm feeling anxiety about this meeting, I can't do it. Right? Imagine if as soon as I got stressed out because I was scared to do something, I said, I'm not cut out for this deal. Temporarily, that might be an uncomfortable feeling. If I quit, if I gave up, I might feel like a little bit less pain in like the short term, but long term, I'm missing out on something that's so much greater. So, what I need to do and what y'all need to do is rather than labeling yourself as, I'm this or that, or I'm that, right? Rather than me, like, labeling myself as, being handicapped with an anxiety disorder, rather than telling myself I can't do particular things because I'm experiencing a particular emotion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that and I'm going to think, okay, what's the way around that? How do I manage that? Right? Because the thing is in reality, anxiety isn't a bad thing. It's unchanneled energy, right? It can be something that if you channel properly can fuel you actually. So, here's an application point. An application point is like any negative declaration that anybody has put over your life, shake that off, right? You can decide the person that you want to become, right? If somebody else has done it, there's no reason that you can't do it too. There's a reason there's that prompting on your heart, right? You might not feel like you have the tools to do what they've done, but God's given you all the tools that you need to do what he's called you to do. So if that prompting is on your heart and you have a goal and you have a vision, it's for a reason. And you might not know exactly how that is going to play out. But I promise you, if you commit and if you trust the process, what'll happen is it'll end up manifesting into existence. So, map out, guys, the areas that are most important in your life, business, finances, family, relationships, pray over those areas. Map out what your perfect life would look like. It starts with self-awareness. It starts with knowing, right? You can't hit a target that, you're not aiming for. So you have to intentionally seek out, personal growth material to help you create those results. It's not just going to happen, right? It's not just going to appear. You have to be intentional about it. And that's the key. So, the great thing is, we live in this personal growth culture. There's so many podcasts, books, conferences, seminars. Find people in life that have the fruit that you want in those areas and duplicate how they got there. So third application point is just being intentional about developing your vision. Now, Michael Todd, he has been transformational in my vision development. If you YouTube him, he has so many sermon series on the concept of vision and how to grow that and how to develop that and what vision is. So I would encourage you. Definitely look him up because that has, helped catapult my career. Your vision is your fuel, right? And really, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. That's the most important factor of this business. If I wasn't convinced that God called me to be here, I would have given up, right? This deal is hard. It's hard. It is what it is. Being successful is hard. The only thing that is going to get you through the tough times in this deal is vision. Vision is going to give you the self-discipline you need to sacrifice what you want now for what you want most. This is literally, guys, what got me through like the drive spell that I had when I was starting off. When I wasn't making any money, I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. I just had a vision. It's that simple. And I didn't let go of that. Now, here's the thing is it can't be a surface level vision. It has to go deep. Right? Ask yourself why you want something 4 times to really find the real reason behind that. Right? Keep that reason in front of you. If your vision is surface level, you're going to burn out in this deal. You will. It's hard, right? So, it has to be greater than just paper, just money, just materials, just a surface level thing. It has to be more than that. You have to tie your vision to something that's greater than just you. And, it can't be something that's created by your upline, by your family, by your friends. It has to come with inside of you. And just, start by realizing the vehicle that you have your hands on. Start by realizing, how much this opportunity provides you with, and don't be afraid to think bigger. I guarantee you whatever you're thinking is probably not big enough. I guarantee you that you can probably do more than whatever you're thinking. And the crazy thing is like, we literally have the ability to change the world with the opportunity we have in front of us. So, and here's the thing, don't get discouraged. Like, if you're not a big thinker, if you're not a visionary, you can't actually fix that, right? You can't actually develop that. That's a skill set. I didn't used to have a vision, right? I was very intentional about my spiritual growth. And that's what helped me develop a vision. That's what helped me to start thinking big. There's so many books, there's so many sermons on that. Grow your relationship with God, and he'll tell you why he put you here. And that solves everything. And not only that, if you're not even like a spiritual person, like, get around big thinkers, expand your mindset. You become like the people you spend the most time with. So if you're thinking small and if you're lacking vision, then, I could probably pin it to you're probably hanging out with some small-minded people, that have limited beliefs in themselves. So get yourself away from those people, right? Surround yourself with visionaries. And when you surround yourself with visionaries, you become a visionary yourself. The people that are crazy enough to change the world are the ones that actually do. So you can't be afraid of people thinking you're crazy. You can't, you know what I mean? People tell me that all the time. They told me that before this deal. And, the thing is maybe I am a little bit crazy. It's a little bit crazy to make over $250,000 in your 20s. So I'm okay with them saying that. Fourth application point is just committing to an uncommon life. So you guys, what we need to realize is you are building and you are developing residual income. That is not normal, right? A normal career does not provide you with that. You have the ability to make over 6 figures in your first year. And Daniel made over $1 million in his second full year of business. That's not normal. You don't get to do that in a normal career, right? Getting a $5,000 residual check, which I have multiple months in a row at 27 years old, that's not normal, right? So realize in a traditional business, when you start a traditional business, you're losing money, not making money, let alone this much money, right? So I'm not saying that all to brag or boast. I'm just saying that I don't live a normal life, right? And I can't look at myself and say, woe is me, like I miss doing the things that my friends that are making a salary job do, right? I can't like compare myself and say, I wish I could take weekends off and, have the nights to watch Netflix. And, I wish I could go out on the weekends and I wish I could be out all night. Like, I can't say that because I'm not living I don't want an uncommon life, right? So like, I can't, compare myself to people that are normal, right? I have to say no a lot. No is the most powerful word in the dictionary when you're on a success track. You have to get comfortable with saying that. And it's a very uncomfortable word to say, but you can't do it all. You can't please everybody. You can't, I have to say no to my friends all the time. If I hang out with them, I have to schedule it. My friends aren't like that. They like to do spontaneous stuff. I've got to schedule it. And sometimes if I'm behind on my goals, I have to back out on them and I feel horrible about it. But at the end of the day, they'll get over it. At the end of the day, they will. You know what I mean? They love me. I've been with them since day one. They're not going to hate me. When I'm 30 years old and I'm a multimillionaire and I'm paying for them to travel the world, they're not going to hate me. You know what I mean? They're going to be right where I left them when I started this deal. I have to say no to my family all the time. I don't like doing that, but I do. It breaks my heart. But the thing is again, my family's not on the success track that I'm on. I'm building something that they don't understand. Even in business, you have to say no to people, whether if it's you're in leadership or if it's people that are asking for help. For me personally, I will help anybody. You know what I mean? I don't mind. But the thing is as soon as somebody's not going to help themselves, that's a waste of time. You know what I mean? I'm going to say no to that. Because here's the thing, people that have nothing better to do, they're going to want to spend that time with you. And my mindset is, guys, we're building, a business, not a ministry. So my time needs to be spent doing revenue generating activities. So if I focus on developing an income, a business, right? If I focus on, pouring my time into people that are going to duplicate what I'm telling them, then what's going to happen is results are going to expedite, and I'm going to have an income flow where I'm going to be able to pour into ministries and help people that are actually of need, right? Rather than people that, are in this business and they have everything they need, but they just don't want to help themselves. You know what I mean? Because those type of people are they're gonna pull you down. They are. So, it's just anybody can build this business. Anybody can, but not everybody is willing to. You have to be willing. It starts with a willingness. How much are you willing to give up? How much are you willing to sacrifice? The person that sacrifices and gives up the most and is the most committed, they're the ones that are going to have the most results in this deal. So, you have to let go of who you were before this business. You have to realize you're becoming somebody who can sustain and maintain a high level of success. That's not an easy thing to do. We weren't cut out of the womb to do that, right? Sometimes, being successful or, having a lot of results or, being in a leadership role, it's not what your flesh wants. Your flesh would rather sit back and, go to bed early or, go out and, drink with your friends. Sometimes it's not what your friends wants, your flesh wants. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I promise it's worth it. I promise it's worth it. That short-term sacrifice it's so much greater for what you can get in the long term. And guys, realize, that feeling of I miss my friends, I miss my family, I miss my old life. Like, that's normal. It's normal to feel that way sometimes because success can be mundane, right? But what's important is not letting yourself revert back to bad, toxic habits, right? And the way that you do that is you keep your vision in front of you. I know I was feeling that way in October. I had a really, really big goal for October and I wasn't coming close to it. So what happened is, my mind was like, I missed like a few years ago when I could go out with my friends and, I could just like relax and, I didn't have to push for these numbers. But then like, I remembered, this is so much bigger than just 1 month of production. Like, I'm doing things like that are so much greater. You know what I mean? This is just part of the process. I'm just learning. I'm just trialing, failing, and adjusting. Like, I can't revert back to the person that I was. So that vision is what propels you through those feelings of missing, your old life or who you were. Because here's the thing, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten, right? So you've got to change. When things get hard, hold on to that vision. Fifth application point is just, guys, find people in life that have what you want and duplicate them. Never take advice from somebody who you wouldn't want to trade places with in that area of their life. If you follow unsuccessful patterns, then what's going to happen is you're going to become unsuccessful. If you hang around with unsuccessful people, you're going to become unsuccessful, right? Results speak, guys. I don't care about position. I care about results. People are where they're at in life for a reason. So don't feel sorry for anybody. Don't buy anybody's excuses. I was a mess in my early 20s. I was, I didn't have a lot of guidance. There was a season in my life where I was literally living out of my car. But the thing is, I got myself into that position, right? So nobody got me out. I had to get myself out. What did I do? Right? I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to books, reading books. I thought to myself, I'm going to duplicate the patterns of people that have gotten themselves out of the situations that I'm in. And I started like studying their processes and their thought patterns. And I started changing, right? And then what happened is when I started getting my life on track, I started attracting like, other business owners and other mentors into my life. And, I was like, I want the life that they have. So I'm going to duplicate what they do. Right. So you've got to position yourself to be around, people that build you up rather than pull you down. Right. So, there's a lot of things you guys can do for this. Most of y'all have like probably a positive, business environment that you're around. But even if you don't, you can plug yourself into like a positive, like spirit-filled church community. There's so many personal growth seminars, so many business seminars. American Income has so many opportunities within itself. And, here's the thing. You position yourself in American Income where you're successful and, get yourself noticed and you'll build a network, you'll build a connection, start identifying who you want to become in the results that you want. And then, what'll happen is those people that have that will start manifesting into your life. So that's where it really all starts, guys. That's where it really all starts is, having a clear definition of what you want. And, maybe your upline's not that, right? But don't sit here and blame your upline either. And that's not what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying that whatsoever. I mean, your upline is a person, right? It's never their fault. There's always a way around it. And you might have like, a perfect, great, clean cut upline that, is producing at a very, very high level. You might not, but if you don't, there's always a way around it. So there's so many books, podcasts, conferences, there's trainings like this. You could always learn from somewhere. So just put yourself in a position where you're noticed and you'll have the ability to learn from anybody. And then, last application point that I have for you guys today, and then we'll open it up to question and answers, is just develop yourself in the dark. Okay. So what y'all need to do is commit to the process. One book that transformed my mindset on this, it's called Win in the Dark by Joshua Medcalf. And then, Darren Hardy's Compound Effect. Those are transformational books. And what you guys have to realize is most people in this deal are not going to get recognition right away. And I think like as human beings, we all crave that. So sometimes like when we go to the meetings month after month, and we feel like we're not noticed, like it can get a little bit discouraging. But most people are not an overnight success. If they are an overnight success, there's probably something that you're not seeing there. If they tell you everything was easy, they're probably not being truthful for you. If they're just telling you, hey, like I have these results because I'm just naturally talented, gifted, I have this like crazy ability, it's probably not the truth, right? Most people develop themselves in a season without being noticed in the dark before they have results. And this is why, only like a small demographic of people are so successful, because most people don't make it through the dark room. Most people give up before they make it to the other side. Right? So if you put your head down and you do the work, what's going to happen is your results are going to compound. You'll make it. And notice how I'm saying like do the work, not show up, because it's important to realize that this deal is not like, it's not a W-2 position, right? It's not a social club. You can't just show up and expect results, right? You have to be intentional about your growth. You have to be intentional about the work that you're putting in. And you have to be intentional about getting better every single day. We're a 1099 business. You can't treat it like a normal job. You've got to be showing up early, staying late. You got to be putting in hours on the weekend if you're behind. And that's what's getting you 1% better every single day. Not clocking in and clocking out. It's going the extra mile. Like that's what's doing it. So guys, if you trust the process, if you focus on getting better, 1%, just a minute amount every single day, what'll happen is you'll watch your results expedite. And then one day what's going to happen is you're going to pick your head up and then all of a sudden you're going to be an overnight success. I promise. That's how it works. But yeah, we could open up to question and answers if you want. Number 6 was just to develop yourself in the dark.
Ashley, I'm pretty sure that you've inspired a few hundred people today. The chat's been blowing up. So if I look like I wasn't paying attention to you, I was trying to answer everyone's questions. Like, what was number 6? What was number 5? I have a director, Matt Dawson, with me, and he's like, wait, what was that she said again? So everyone, he's like, she is awesome. I'm like, stop talking. So that was absolutely incredible. We will make sure that we get everyone a list of her 6 points and also the books that she mentioned, just so we don't have to continue repeating them in the chat. If you have questions, we've started to actually have some roll in. As a reminder, I saw some in the chat. We can't answer the ones in the chat because you guys are blowing up the chat telling Ashley how amazing she is, which we appreciate that. If you can go ahead and just switch your questions over to the Q&A. We really appreciate you. I told you were going to crush it. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Elizabeth to facilitate the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. You were amazing. So question number 1 is from Joy Allen. And the question is, what's your number 1 strategy to help people turn from, I don't need this, or I will think about it?
Be proactive and sell the value. So sale is a transfer of belief. So it has to like come from within. So, I mean, I would say they should never ever really say like, I don't need this. I mean, it's really rare. I mean, I'm maybe like 1, 2, 3% of the time where they already have like an exponential amount of, insurance. And that used to be something that I would get as a new person all the time. And a lot of time that's because it was like confidence. So you have to believe that they need it. And when you believe that they need it, then they believe that they need it. You have to communicate with them so confident that they just make a decision. I mean, I'd say my job is not to sell them or convince them. My job is to educate them and direct them into making a decision, or, help them, service them into figuring out what fits the need the best, rather than convince them something, because I'm being so proactive about providing the value. So hopefully that helps.
Awesome answer. Okay, we got a question from Avi or Avi. What are 3 basic qualities to succeed in the AIL business environment?
So I would say number 1 is just, because the stuff that I talked about before, but I don't think, with AIL, there's like one like particular person that is like cut out for this, or like, it's not like anybody can do this. It's opportunity unlimited. But I think what it starts with is like ownership and accountability. Because I think like what I see, like the difference between the people that make it and the people that don't make it, are the people that don't make it are coming into this deal and they're viewing it like a job, and they're clocking in and clocking out. And, they're kind of just going through like the motions that their upline tells them. They might come into town, they might travel, but it's more like a social club to them. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are in love with the concept of being successful. Like they love the idea of it. They love being around the culture, but when it comes to actually doing the work and putting their head down and getting dirty, they won't do that, right? So, rather than being like a W-2 and viewing it that way, because this is not a job, you look at yourself like you're a business owner, right? When you can't work your way through a door, you knock it down. Right? You decide what you want and you figure out a way to get it regardless of, and nobody's going to stop you from getting it because you're a business owner. Right? So it's like that ownership mentality of like, I am in business for myself. Like, stop waiting on your upline to do stuff for you. Stop waiting on your SGA to give you leads. You know what I mean? Just find a way to make it happen regardless. And, I think that is like, I would say like the number 1 quality. Number 2 quality I would say would be like, having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. You know what I mean? So, rather than looking at yourself like, I am this type of person, or, I can't do this because this is who I am, realize that you can develop into whatever type of person that you want. I had no sales background before I started this. You know what I mean? But am I going to like look at myself when I come to this deal and say like, I suck, I can't do this? No, like I'm going to develop myself into a person that can be highly successful. And then, so what did I say? Ownership mentality, having a growth mindset. And I think number 2 is just, having like, a pure like heart and a disposition of your heart. I think that's important too, because people can like read through that. Right. So like, it's important to have humility and not have like this massive like ego, like, I'm the best, I don't want to help anybody, this is all about money. So I'd say like that's like the other most important thing too, is just like check the disposition of your heart. And that's something that you can fix too over time as well. You can help that with like spiritual growth or just personal growth, and just really check yourself. But having the right intentions, because clients can read that. They know if you're just trying to make a sale, they know if you're just trying to make money, or they know if you're trying to service them and you actually care about them. So hopefully that helps.
Agreed. Jessie Lane has, what are some great systems you have developed?
Great systems that I have developed. So, I think like as far as, systems go, I think like calendar planning is really, really important, and that's going to, change over time. Some people in different agencies, they have like different, I'm trying to like think about what to say, because this is like a big call, so I'm trying to make sure that it's like generalized for everybody, because everybody does something so different. So like I don't think like there's like a right or a wrong way to do that. One thing that I would recommend is like evaluating at the end of each week like what your results were, and just kind of dissecting, okay, what did I do? What do I feel like my setbacks were? What do I think that I did this week that caused me to be better, and how do I adjust for next week? That's something that I'll do. I'm not really like a big like daily numbers person. I more so do it like weekly, where I sit down and I self-reflect and I analyze on a weekly basis. And I'm like, okay, like how can I try, fail, and adjust for next week? So I'd say like, that weekly mapping things out is important. Running a schedule is important. Like for me, like even if it's like not a push month, unless it's like, something crazy happening, like 3 to 9 is prime time, so 3 to 9, all I'm doing is I'm trying to get an instant appointments. So that's like my system and my precision there. I do myself have callers, but I don't depend on them. My mentality always is my schedule is at 0. So from 3 to 9, if I'm not in an appointment, even if I have an appointment coming up in a half hour, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to get in an appointment. So I'm calling myself and I'm trying to get somebody on the schedule right now, because like, I just don't trust the people on my schedule are actually going to show. So there's that. And then it's just like, making sure that you're maintaining your retention too, and kind of brushing up on that. Cause that's something that I really struggled to do when I was on a producer run. So in the middle of the day, what I would do is I'd kind of like block off time to make sure you're managing your current clients. It's almost like brushing your teeth. If you don't focus on your retention, your policy issues every single day, then what happens is, it starts to fall apart. If you don't brush your teeth every single day, they start to rot. So like, you gotta like plan time every single day to do that. I would start your day every single day with something positive, personal growth. After you do that, kind of tie up your life stuff, loose ends, like, anything random in business, retention, and then run from like 3 to 9. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Awesome. Good stuff. Gail Carter, how do you recover from not having leads?
So there's always, when there's a will, there's a way, you know what I mean? So, every agency does things differently. When it comes to leads, when it comes to resources, some people are in different states. They can't always go like, in person. I ran 100% virtual last year and this year. But realize that there are agencies within American Income that don't even get leads. Sabrina Lloyd is 100% referrals. They don't get any leads whatsoever. So like, they are like 100% dependent on figuring it out on their own. And they won category 2 last year. So they're doing very, very well without any resources. So I think like, if like the leads is the problem, then you need to shift your mentality from W-2 to 1099. And you need to shift your mentality to like, I am a business owner. It is not my SGA's job, to make sure that I'm successful. And it's like, one thing that I'll do with Tommy is like, for me, because I am a big producer, and I did have a little bit more callers in October than I usually do, is I'll get on the same page with him and I'll be like, hey, like, what type of resources can you provide me with? I don't expect you to do this for me, but like, I want to be on the same page with you, so I'm making like smart decisions with like my planning. But like, even in like what was I gonna say, in that last month, October, like I really wasn't getting the activity that I got in July, but like I wasn't sitting there and I wasn't like, okay, the leads suck, like I'm blaming my SGA, like how, what I was doing was I was focusing on referrals. You know what I mean? I think the last week of the month I grossed 22,000, and I think like 70% of it was just referrals. And like, I got like one client that owned a business. She gave me 13 of her employees. I sold 5 of them. They were the easiest sales ever. The other ones I didn't get on the schedule yet. I focused on like contingent beneficiary. So I don't know if y'all know what that is, but like, whenever you make a sale, always make sure you're following up with their beneficiaries and the backup beneficiaries, and, straight up insurance referrals too. So, and it's just like, I think a lot of like, the mindset is just like, I'm going to make something happen. And yeah, like Tommy gave me like good leads, and like, I had a base for sure, but like my schedule wasn't like back to back to back, like union, like POS, like, I wasn't getting my schedule pool of leads. So like I had to figure out a way around it. You know what I mean? One thing you can do is you can call up your past clients and ask them for more referrals. Like that's something that I've done in the past too. You know, here's the thing is just like if you actually, well, actually, I think that's an agency basis because I don't think everybody can do that. I think like some agencies do have rules where you can't. So listen to your upline and your SGA on that. But you know, it's developing good relationships with a client after a sale. And sometimes they're like a walking billboard for you and they do provide you, you know, with more, you know, people. Hopefully that answers.
Very true. Very, very true. JC Lyric, what piece of advice would you give someone trying to get to that next level, that switch from 2K a month to top producer?
So realize that it doesn't happen overnight, you know what I mean? And realize that it's gradual. And you know, I mean, it's very, very rare that you see somebody come out of the gates and they're just like a top producer. Most of the time that it's a process. And there's a concept that's like called a compound effect. You know, what happened is like all last year, like, you know, I focused on consistency. I focused on trying to do consistent 4K a weeks and 6K a weeks and 10K a weeks. By the end of the year, 2021, I was pretty consistent with writing 10,000 a week. You know, I didn't put up like massive, like $50,000, $60,000 weeks. I gradually got better. And then what happened is at the beginning of the year, 2022, I didn't really focus on producing. I focused on leadership. So like I wasn't focusing on my numbers. And recently I've done like a shift again, you know, where I'm more so focused on producing. But like, you know, my mentality is not like, you know, to go from 0 to 100. I'm working on getting consistent with hitting $20,000 weeks, you know, and I do that every once in a while, but it's not every single week. And then whenever I'm consistent with those, I'll be doing, you know, $30,000 weeks. So like, you know, here's the thing. I mean, if you're writing 2,000 in a week, get one more referral and write 3,000 in a week and get consistent with that. Right? Then get 2 more referrals and then write 4,000 in a week and get consistent with that. You know, work your way up to it. You know what I mean? Don't expect yourself to go from 0 to 100 because, you know, I mean, I didn't, even when you think about it, when I say like I went from 3,000 to 16,000, that's not really a big jump. You know, $16,000 in a month isn't really that much. It was just impressive because it was a brand new agency. You know what I mean? So that's why it seemed like it was such a drastic difference. Hopefully that helps.
All right. I mean, the questions are blowing up. We got time for a couple more maybe. So the next one is going to be for, let's see here. I'm going to mispronounce this last name. Bosher is the last name. Do you roll most of your appointments?
Roll like roll contingent. I honestly, to be completely honest, I don't. And that's something that we always like do teach, but I'm just going to be completely transparent. I really don't, because most of the time I'm just going very fast. You know, I'm trying to have somebody trying to do like quick pitches, very efficient. I do have, you know, my clients text them, and then like if I can't get a hold of the referral, then I'll follow back up with the client again. And it is definitely good to roll them because I mean I definitely have before, but most of the time for me, I'm trying to put up big numbers, so it's like efficiency, you know what I mean, and time, and it just like I'm trying to get into the next set. So yeah.
Got it. Andrew would like to know, what's your approach to getting referrals, and can you provide some tips
For referrals? So I think like there's two main ways that, I mean, because sometimes like I think like quality is a little bit better than quantity, but here's the thing, like your mindset kind of has to shift a little bit. So like when you're a new agent, before you're in leadership, like your mindset should always be quantity, right? You should always be trying to get as many referrals as you possibly can, because the name of the game is, you know, developing a skill set, and it's getting activity. And if you have a lot of activity, you'll fall into some sales. So whenever you're brand new, utilizing like the marketing material that we have. You know, when I was a brand new agent, like I got so many referrals off of like the child safe. I got so many referrals off of like the $2,000 like AD&D gift certificate. They've got the AL Plus program, which is new and revamped. You can get referrals off of those. So you can get a lot of quality from those. Now, like right now, since I'm producing at a high level, like my mindset is like, I'm trying to focus on like the quantity. So like what I do for like the quantity is, the quality is, contingents. So like beneficiaries and insurance referrals, like those are like my main focus. Those are the referrals that I'm like, really driving hard on. So like anytime I make a sale, or even if it's a POS, or, even if it's like a union with like, an accident policy, what I tell people is I'm like, hey guys, part of obviously the process is making sure that we verify like the beneficiary role, with not only your primary, but your backup, beneficiaries. And here's the key. You always have to explain to people why this is important so they understand. And you always have to make them feel as well like they're in control, so they don't feel like it's a bait and switch. Right. So, here's why it's so important that I follow up with your beneficiaries. Now, I don't know if you knew the statistic, but like over $1 billion of insurance has gone unclaimed. Right. That's a lot of money, guys. Right. It's a lot of money. Right. And here's the thing, what we do in order to combat that from happening, and protect you, is make sure, number one, we verify that role with them, make sure that they're okay with taking on that responsibility. And number two, make sure that they have all of the proper paperwork that they would need if you die, and they do have a full understanding of how the insurance works, because insurance is very confusing, right? Exactly, right? So of course, during that time frame, that's mom, that's your son. They're probably going to have questions. I'll be able to answer those for them and make sure I'm properly servicing them in a proper point of contact for them. But like what I do is like whenever I'm filling out the app, I just make it part of the process. Like I don't even make it into this big thing. I'm like, okay, beneficiary, are they single, married? Okay, what's their phone number? What's a backup? What's a third? What's a fourth? And like I just make it part of the application so like they think it's normal. And then whenever I lock up the application, then what I do is I go into the explanation and I explain to them that I'm following up with them. They just think it's part of the application process. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, like obviously this is your insurance, right? So we want, the fact that like they're your beneficiary coming from you, not me. So they're not looking at me like I'm crazy, right? So, please make sure, as soon as we get off the call, you call them and you explain that they're your beneficiary on the coverage. That way they know I'm reaching out. Text them my number too. So like I'll like make that very clear. And then what I do is just like a concept that we do at our agency, it's called like VIBs. And I kind of turn those beneficiaries into like insurance referrals as well. And like when I do this, what I do is I make it about them. So I'm like, okay, guys, we're all wrapped up here. What I have is just, a quick survey for you guys. Lets the company know how I'm doing. Now, did you find the information that we went over of value today? And let them respond. Okay, you did? Okay, perfect. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate how we did for you today? Let them answer. Okay, now out of all of the information that we went over, what would you guys find to be the most valuable out of all the information we went over? And then just like, okay, let them give you like a specific reason. And then after that, kind of like pull that reason that they gave you and use it as like leverage. Okay, now last question, that I have for you, and obviously, Elizabeth, this is with your permission 100%. But as like this is a program that you have access to because of obviously you being a part of SCIU, right? Or the labor union, whatever union it is. So it's not an open market program. Not everybody can call us up and enroll. But what they've actually been allowing you to do just this year is they've actually been allowing you to sponsor, up to only 10, friends and family members to receive, not only the same no cost programs that you received, like the health service savings plan you found of value, but also the same discounted insurance plans as well. Right. So, I mean, obviously, we're already following up with your beneficiaries to go over that paperwork. So, let them know about the sponsorship opportunity, right? That's your daughter. right? So we want that coming from you, but let them know about that. Because if that's something that they find of value, even though they're on your policy, they would count too. But other than mom, other than your sister, who do you know that you think could find value in the program? I know you mentioned that, you were pretty close with your sister. We can actually use her. What's her number? Okay. Who's next? And always give them like suggestions. So like those are like the two methods that I really focus on. If I go down like another method, it's usually like the AD&D now at this point. But when I was new, I'd say like child safes, that was like a big way to get quantity for sure.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like laughing, listening to you speak, because it's like literally almost word for word the script that I memorized like 16 years ago and with Ray Smith. So
Yeah.
it's funny. I mean, it's just so simple, but your language is just so assumptive. And that's why you're able to get results.